Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll wait for 2 to 3 more minutes and then we'll start so that probably others would be able to join. Yes, good evening all and welcome to session 4 on management fundamentals. So probably what we were done with the different approaches to management. That was the classical approach, the behavioral approach, and the quantitative approach. And then we looked into n number of MCQs, and we tried to ensure that yes, we have learned, and whatever we have learned, it's still there with us. Okay. So now with this, now let us move ahead into competencies, right? So today we'll be looking into the meaning of competencies, the difference between skills and competencies, different types of competencies, and how the employers make the use of these competencies while recruiting the people in their organization. Okay, and then we'll be further discussing that what are the competencies that are essential in a manager, in a business manager. Okay, so now let us look into the term competencies. Now, competencies are qualities that the company's recruiters, they have decided that they will be needing so and so qualities in the person that would be recruited by them. Okay, so they are the qualities that the company's recruiters have decided are desirable, or you can say they should be having these competencies for employees to possess. Now, during job interviews and assessments, competencies, they are used as benchmarks against which assessors can evaluate the candidates. So they are not skills. Okay, competencies are not skills, but although both the term skills and competencies are interchangeably being broadly used. Skills are learned, while competencies are inherent qualities that an individual will possess that combines together the ability to perform, the knowledge base, and the skill sets, okay, that a person can develop over a period of time. So now let us look into where did these competencies come from. Employers have been using competencies to help them to recruit and manage their employees since Industrial Revolution. Okay, after the psychologists found that the traditional tests that were being conducted by the employers that were used by them since longer durations, such as the academic aptitude and knowledge-based tests, they did not accurately predict the employment success. Gone were the days where the employees used to appear to these knowledge-based tests and the academic aptitude tests. In spite of the fact that scoring high on these tests did not guarantee that the employee would be the most suitable within the given organization. Further, in subsequent years, competency frameworks, they have become increasingly an accepted part of recruitment and contemporary human resource practice. And now they form a part of most of the employers' assessment procedures. Okay. So now what are these competencies? Today, many employers have a competency framework in place for their organization, or at least they are planning to introduce the competency framework that will map the competencies of the prospective employees. A study was being conducted somewhere in 2015 by Deloitte. It showed that 89% of the best in-class organizations, that is, we mean the organizations where staff and management, they are higher achievers. Okay, so such organizations or best in organizations, they had hardcore competencies defined for all the roles, and that's where they stood different as best in class organizations as opposed to 48% of all other companies which were comparatively lower in grades. Now, given all this, now we can say that competencies are something that job applicants need to know about, right? So now let us look into what is the difference between skills and competencies. Now the definition of skills and competencies is, on the face of it, they appear to be very similar. They are very much interchangeably being used. Why? Because both of them, they relate to the ability of an employee to do something, right? However, there are inherent differences in the way these two terms are essentially used by the recruiters. Okay, others might use it interchangeably, but recruiters don't. So now we can say that skills are undoubtedly important when recruiting for a new position or assessing the capabilities of existing employees. However, in isolation, they are not enough to adequately assess whether an individual will be successful in a particular role or whether they will have a healthy talent lifestyle. What do you mean by talent lifestyle? That is how the employees would move through a company once they are hired in. Okay, and that's where competencies come in. So now let us understand the difference between skills and competencies with some example. Now here are some key differences between the two. A skill is the ability to do something. Why? And hence it was said that when the recruiters employed the people with the requisite skills, it was found that these skills were not sufficient for them to perform the desired roles. Right? That's where we saw that the competencies came into the picture. So, and hence based on that, now we will be defining that a skill is the ability to do something, whereas competencies are behaviors. Okay. So you learn to probably say clean a window just as you learn to perform a surgery. Now these are skills, whereas competencies specify how the individual will carry out the skills that they already possess. Say for example, 10 people might be skilled at computer programming, but perhaps only 5 will work in a way that is in line with the culture of the company in which they would be recruited. So this might be being respectful when we say that that only 5 of them would be working in line with the company culture. What do we mean by that? It would mean that only 5 of them that are recruited, they would be working efficiently at the efficiency level that are desired by the organization. They would be having good time management. Okay, they would be showing respect within the management hierarchy and following the rules. They would be an effective team members working as effective team members and so on. Right? So that's where the difference lies between skills and competencies. The manner in which you want them, they possess that behavior that will align them with the company's culture or the organization's culture. Another difference is skills are very specific in nature, whereas when we refer to the term competencies, they are having a broad perspective. A person can either perform, say, an open heart surgery and save someone's life, or they can't. In contrast, competencies tell us what success looks like. They combine the ability and the knowledge with the required amount of skills to do a particular job. For example, a talented open heart surgeon would be one who is rude to their team, gives relatives bad news in a nonchalant manner, and hasn't kept up with studying the latest developments in the industry. He would not be considered to be succeeding in the role, right? So specific multi-layered competencies that give employers and recruiters clear benchmarks for each element, that is skills, knowledge, and ability. Okay. They can be used at interview. They could be used in tests. They could be used on the job performances to define the success or the potential success in a particular role that the employee is in. Now let us look into different types of competencies. One of the biggest challenges a company might face in recruitment is identifying the employee competencies in the initial place, in the initial stage, or that in the first place. it can often be difficult to put into words what the employees need to possess to make them successful. So now competencies are said to fall in three categories. First is the behavioral competencies, that is an expression of softer skills involved in employees' performance. The manner in which he behaves, the manner in which he expresses himself in the community, the manner in which he tackles the work to be done from people. Okay, the manner in which he is reporting to the top management, and so on. Then we have the technical competencies. These are usually concerned with the effective use of information technology systems and computers or any hard skills that are necessary for a job role. Okay, for which one should have the technical knowledge, one should possess the necessary qualification, at the same time should have the experience in handling the technical issues. The third one is leadership competencies. They refer to the expression of the qualities that make a good leader. Okay, that are turned into measurable behaviors. So that's the manner in which a manager will lead his team in achieving the goals of the organization that defines his or her own leadership style. So these are the three categories that competencies fall into. Now, given that skills aren't the same as competencies, all the employees at a firm might be expected to possess some of the same basic competencies to fulfill the basics of their roles, even if their expected skill sets might be different. Okay, got to know? All the employees might be expected to possess the same basic competencies in spite of the different skill sets that they possess. These are called as threshold competencies. So whether an office manager or a solicitor at a law firm, all employees should have basic understanding of the industry, the company's services, and how the company operates. Further, they should also be competent using a computer and in the communication roles, their respective communication roles. Now, these threshold competencies would then be accompanied by further competencies that might be specifically tailored to the role. Now, we'll now be coming up with an example of simplified competency framework that might be used at interviews, or it could be used while during the performance appraisal of the employees. Now, often there would be 2 or 3 competencies per subcategory of competencies. It is not common for all the competencies to be further broken down into different levels of achievement. So now let us look into this framework of competencies, which will help in the performance appraisal or interview of the candidates. So again, in the 3 main categories as shown in the table, that is behavioral, technical, and leadership, we are having subcategories under each one of them. Under the behavioral category, we have the subcategory that is teamwork. Now, with respect to teamwork, the competency would be how a person supports the group decisions and puts the group success ahead of his own goals. So that determines his teamwork competency. How a person is able to analyze the problems by obtaining and organizing relevant information, that determines his problem solving competencies. Then, is the candidate approachable and is he willing to help others? That is his customer service competency. Further, are the results driven and can identify the steps to achieve the goals? Is the candidate result driven? That is his result orientation competency. And is the candidate able to communicate the ideas or the information effectively? Or is he falling short of what is expected to be communicated by him? So that is the communication competency that depicts his communication style. So these are the 5 competencies that will come under the behavioral competencies. Further, under another category, that is technical competencies, whether a candidate is competent at using the CRM, that is a customer relationship management system, that will depict his sales competency. Is the candidate competent at using the Hootsuite for social media queuing or any other type of technical tool that comes up over the period of time in handling the customers? That will depict his marketing competency. Or is a person, say, coming from accounting background, is he competent at using Sage? That will determine his accounting competency and so all these. So technical competencies, the person should be able to utilize effectively the latest technical tools and techniques that are coming up in the respective fields. And then we have leadership competencies, wherein we have whether a person is able to motivate, is he able to inspire the team and his peers? That is his motivation competency. And whether he acts with empathy and compassion within groups, within the departments, that indicates his employee relations competency. So these are the different categories, subcategories, and under each subcategory, what is tested as a competency within the person to be recruited, okay, or while evaluating the performance of an individual in the department. So now, knowing these different types of or categories and subcategories of competencies, we'll now further look into how these competencies are utilized by the employers. Now, modern employers, as we discussed, with the given framework, they view this competency framework as a tool, as an essential vehicle for measuring a candidate's potential future effectiveness at interview and reviewing an employee's capability, potential, and the would-be performances. Now, employers, they use these competencies in their recruitment process, in performance appraisals, in success planning, and many more. Now, they are the key to helping a company recruit the right people and evaluate their performance effectively on an ongoing basis. Now, they might also use them to assess their existing employees as part of an annual review or prior to the promotions. So now, adhering to the key competencies that will be required from an individual employee with respect to his role in the organization will be important throughout his career. Okay. So traditionally, companies only focused on knowledge and skills, believing that behaviors could be learned or changed through effective management. That was the initial thought process by the recruiters. But now, looking into the competencies framework and the subcategories, we now realize that in recent years, much more attention has been given to the qualities sitting under the surface of an individual, we can say. So the use of competencies in the recruitment process means employers can dig deeper into a complete picture of a candidate to ensure that they get the very best person for the role. That is, the right person at a right place, at a right time within the organization. Further, in job applications too, the person specification often features statements that are similar to those in the competency framework that we looked into above. They inform the candidate what is essential and what is desirable, and look in the eyes of the company recruiting for the position. Now, these are the competencies, and sometimes, especially in small business, a candidate's application will be enough in itself to adequately judge or assess whether the individual possesses the necessary competencies or not. So now, looking into the meaning of competencies, how the competencies vary with the skill sets, the competency framework that is being utilized by today's employers, and how the competencies are being used by the employers. It could be in the interview process, could be in the performance appraisal, or for the future promotions, or deciding the right candidate for the right job, right? So now we further move into the competencies that every manager should master. That is what we refer to as managerial competencies. Now, before going into or looking into in detail each and every competency that a manager should possess, let us look into why at all these competencies are thought of with respect to the job of a manager. Now, there is a first time for everything, and managing other people also could be scary at first. Granted, some people are natural leaders, no doubt about it, and they can get up to the speed very quickly. But then, most need some help in developing important manager competencies. Manager competencies can improve management skills, and they can influence the behavior of others. Now, this can result in a positive impact on the bottom line, right? So again, we can say that competency could be defined as the quality of being competent, adequacy, possession of a required skill, knowledge, qualification, or the capacity to do the things. Now, organizations should have defined competency requirements for their leadership teams too. Now, this allows the organization to be managed within a consistent competency model. Now, it is very common for large organizations to have required competencies that are again aligned with management development training programs to develop the managers within the organization culture. Now, these organizations, they often have the necessary resources looking into the large scale of operations for an in-house training department that is focused on developing the employees by training in all competency areas. Now, smaller organizations, on the other hand, they are required to spend some time thinking through desired competencies and identify the appropriate training options that could be given to their managers and supervisors. So some competencies come naturally within the people, while others, they need to be learned and practiced by many of them, those who don't possess them. So now let us look into these managerial competencies one by one. Okay, or the competencies that every manager has to master are the following. First is supervising others. Appears to be very straightforward. Managing others can be a challenge for the new supervisor who has not had management experience, right? Training new managers on what to do as well as what not to do can help to minimize the issues related to supervising others. For instance, when an employee is promoted to a supervisor and then is put in the position to manage those who are peers, they have to learn how to make that sometimes a difficult transition, right? Because you are raising yourself from the levels where you were initially, and you will be handling the same peers with whom you are working previously. So learning how to navigate in such type of sensitive situations can help the new supervisor to be successful. So first is supervising others. Next, we have conflict resolution. Now we all know that two minds never think alike. In organizations, usually people work in teams. So conflict in the workplace is an inevitable reality, unavoidable reality. It is important to manage this conflict because unresolved conflicts can affect the relationships between the people and groups of people. Now, both of which can have a major impact on the organizational culture and the workers' productivity or the employee productivity. Leaders should be able to manage the conflict and create a win-win situation for all those who are involved in the conflict, which is many a times a difficult approach. Now, this can be done, though difficult, it can be done by identifying the sources of the conflicts, working with both the parties, listening to them, negotiating, and then collaborating to resolve the issues. Next, we have emotional intelligence. We are all aware about intelligence, but then what is emotional intelligence that we would be looking into? It is usually treated as the capacity to be aware of, the capacity to control, and the capacity to express one's emotions, and the capacity to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. So thereby, emotional intelligence, or EI as we call it, it is a skill that can be learned, and it is a mark of a professional maturity. It can take years to develop and a lifetime to master this emotional intelligence. Now, there is usually an ongoing debate as to whether this emotional intelligence is natural or is it a trained ability. So regardless of the fact, it is important that leadership competency that every manager and supervisor, he needs to be perfect with respect to the emotional intelligence is concerned. Now let us look into the next competencies, that is the communication competency or communication skills. Managers, they need to have good written and verbal communication skills to effectively manage the employees. They are a must. Because without proper communication, without complete communication, and without timely communication, it won't be possible for any manager to move ahead in alignment with the goals of the department that are in turn aligned with the objectives and the vision of the organization. Additionally, there needs to be a structured communication process within the organization hierarchy to filter the information throughout the organization. Say, for example, you can answer these questions. Is it a priority to communicate with the employees? Or how often is the information being shared? Or what is the process for communicating new information to the employees? Now, one can think about these questions and the impact sharing information can have on a work team. So that's how answering to the various category of questions, an organization can develop a structured communication process so that the necessary communication reaches the necessary people in the given time. That would further enable the managers in the different managerial hierarchy in their decision making process. The fifth competency is to manage the performance. Now, to effectively manage employees, managers need to understand the basics of managing performance. To do this successfully, managers need to do the following. The managers, they have to manage the performance of their entire department, which in turn depends upon the performance of their team members. So, in order to successfully manage the performance, the managers need to set clear-cut expectations for the job assignments. Okay, so in a particular job, what is an employee required or expected to do in the given time limits, having the normal skill sets with which he is being employed? Write and monitor the employee goals. Okay, what could be the normal goals by a normal worker that could be achieved in the given time and given skill sets? Understand them and monitor them whether they are able to achieve it as per the standards that are being set. Hold the employees accountable for job responsibilities and achieving the goals. Make the employees understand that they are responsible, that they would be questioned on the performances that would be given by them, be it good one or bad ones. Further, reward the employees for doing good job. That will keep the employees motivated in giving more and more in their performances. Further, mentor, coach, and discipline the employees whenever and wherever it is found necessary by the managers. So that's the manner in which probably the managers in the different department will be managing the performances of the team members. That's where a system could be created to manage the performance, and it could be inconsistent within the administration of the entire organization. Next competency is interviewing skills. Now, having the ability to identify the right person for the positions that have opened up within the organization, and to ensure that the organization secures or obtains the best talent for their respective position depends upon the interviewing skills of the managers. Leaders and managers, they need to have basic interviewing skills. Now they include the following. Say, it could be getting prepared for the interviews to be conducted, becoming familiar with the job that the candidate is interviewing for, knowing the ins and outs or the job specifications, okay, for which the applications are received, reviewing job candidate resumes and the job applications. It's only then that the manager is able to identify whether what are the different candidates and the skill sets they are having that have approached to a particular position in the organization, and how can they be matched with the open positions. So reviewing the job candidate resumes and the job applications and identifying the best questions to be asked in the interview. So they are able to identify not only the skills, but also the competencies within the candidates that could match with the company culture, right? So how will a manager acquire these interviewing skills? The secret to this is preparation. If you need to hire a new employee, spend time preparing for the interview so that you can hire the best person for the job. Now we move into the next set of competencies. Next one is team building. Leaders need to be able to build strong teams that have a shared goal and to rally around the mission and vision of the organization. Now, this necessitates the managers to develop basic team leader skills that can help them not only develop their teams, but also minimize the team conflict and manage the team dynamics. Next competency is delegation. Anyone who has ever managed projects, he understands the importance of delegation. Delegating helps developing the employees by gradually increasing their job responsibilities and accountability. An effective delegation is a result of a forethought and a strategy. Successful delegation is knowing the people you work with and is an innate understanding, a must understanding of what others can do if they are given a chance to do so, and then delegating accordingly. So unless and until you know the people with whom you are working, or you know the people who are working under you, and you develop an understanding about their skill sets and their competencies, it would be difficult for a manager to improve the members further through delegation process. Again, another important thing is learning to trust and develop others to perform the task that will come with skill and practice. However, once learned, it can be very liberating for a manager and it allows them to perform higher level tasks that will give some more time to the manager, and he will, so that he could be focusing on the areas, the core areas that he is required to look into by practicing delegation. Next competency is change agent. Organizations are being forced to make dramatic improvements to the products and services to not only compete but to survive itself in today's global economy. Progressive organizations, they understand that change is constant and that in order to move forward, there needs to be a continuous process of improving what is being done by them, how it is to be done by them, and the work that is they are into. It could be manufacturing of projects, it could be manufacturing of products, or it could be rendering of services. Consequently, the leaders need to be the change agents and lead continual change initiatives. Because the process of change itself, it is said to go through different stages till the time the team members they are actually they are ready to implement the required change. Initially, the workers or the employees they could be resistant to the change. Once or after saying no or having a negative approach towards the change, they will further look into what could be, or knowing what is required to be changed, they will further think on what what could be the impact of the change with respect to their jobs and their profiles. So initially there is resistance, then they think emotionally about the change that could be introduced in spite of the fact that they are resistant towards it. Then slowly and steadily they will try to accept that yes, this is something that could be manageable by them, and then they are ready to bring in the necessary change. But in order to move the team members, or in order to enable the team members to be carried along with in this process, the leaders themselves they need to be change agents first, so that they can lead the continual change initiatives. Yes, so with the change agent, the next competency is coaching. Again, learning to be a good coach, apart from being a change agent, can be one of the most rewarding aspects of managing others. Inexperienced employees, they need to coach and can benefit from a manager who takes the time to share their experience, who takes the time to share the lessons learned by them, and the tactical knowledge that could be developed by them. An effective coach will help others learn to build on their strengths and to improve their weaknesses, which again is an important aspect of professional development in any organization. Another important competency is problem solving. Managing people and processes. In doing so, having problem solving skills is a must. Problems come in all shapes and sizes. A good manager will have to learn to solve problems with the employees in the work processes. They could be related to a product or the quality of a service. Managers must be able to identify the problems beforehand, understand the basic problem solving techniques, and facilitate a process to solve the problems and to resolve the issues within the work environment and the culture of the organization. And the last competency, the most important one of them all, is motivating others. So since we are all motivated differently, right? Because no two people are alike, all of them will be motivated differently, and leaders need to understand what inspires and motivates their employees. Accordingly, the leader should be developing a motivation strategy. Now, there are many different motivational models that could be incorporated into a manager's strategy for motivating the employees. So, a leader should be able to identify this model that would work in the given organization culture, and then create a strategy to plan to keep the employees motivated on an ongoing basis. So the trick is to identify what motivates the employees and develop systems and processes that support those motivators. So with this, probably we have dealt with all the 12 managerial competencies that are inevitable from the perspective of today's global culture, today's global organizations and their varied cultures. So now with this, we move on to a small video which speaks about another major competencies. Let's look into the video what it is trying to tell us. Okay. So I'll have to stop this and then share again. So just give me some time.
Ma'am, voice is not audible.
Voice is not audible. Okay, wait a moment. Hmm. Mhm.
आधी हे चालू करून घे बघ हे कर काय ते म्हणजे कशी आहे. Recording नाही आहे ना?
It's recording at their end.
तुमच्याकडून परत जॉईन करायचं आहे
Hmm.
का? 7 मिनिट.
Okay, we'll do one thing. I will leave the meeting and then we'll join back the meeting again. So probably that should help. Fine.
Okay, ma'am.
I close this, na?
ही मीटिंग करूया.
So leave the meeting, na?
इमानियो कुठे आहे? छान ऐकत आहे का?
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We can share the screen. Select the window application. Return to meeting. Speakers for that.
Extraordinary changes, like green.
Yes, audible now? Yes?
Yes, ma'am. Audible.
Yes, ma'am.
But the video is not visible. Cannot see the video.
Now? Is it visible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, now fine.
Management competencies are not sufficient when it comes to implementing extraordinary changes, like reinventing declining business models, or redesigning complex processes, or restoring good relations amongst members of a management team, or regaining the enthusiasm of a team that is suffering the effects of fatigue. To put it in a few words, nowadays there is no lack of money. Management competencies are not a scarce resource. Nowadays, there is lack of leaders with the capacity to transform. The transformation efforts of organizations are frequently dissipated due to the lack of a defined methodology, or the methodology employed is too complex. In the first case, the organization places too much faith in the initial enthusiasm created by the change process. And in the second, the organization is placed at the service of the methodology when it should be the other way around. There is a tendency for large companies to apply complex solutions when transformation really just requires a simple methodology. We cannot tackle a transformation process simply by following an instruction manual. Throughout the transformation process, we must constantly gauge the situation within the organization and at the same time, accompany the leaders and each member of the team effectively. Transformation is not an industrial process, but a question of handcrafted leadership, person by person. Transformations tend to revolve around projects, which are a basic way of focusing the organization efforts on strategic priorities. However, only half the success of a transformation process depends on the implementation of these projects. The other half consists of the new competencies that members of the team must acquire. In other words, in order to achieve a transformation that is sustainable, a series of new competencies must be developed among members of the team. while others need to be strengthened. One of the leadership competencies that is most critical when it comes to accelerating and boosting the impact of a transformation is giving feedback. But I'm not referring to procedures managed by human resources, such as performance evaluation or 360-degree exercises. I'm referring to a gift that anyone in a company can make to anyone else by making them aware of an improvement opportunity, irrespectively of hierarchy or operational area. This kind of feedback, rather than stabbing them in the back, becomes a key accelerator of the transformation process. Many companies are finding on a daily basis that digital transformation is a strategic requirement to overcome disruption in their industry. However, digital transformation goes beyond merely technological questions, because it is not a simple matter of digitalizing analog business models, but creating new business models through digital platforms. And in order to do so, it is essential to transform as well the digital tools and the collaboration culture. A digital transformation is just a superficial change if you don't transform the whole organization. Transformation hurts, just like going on a diet or following a demanding training program. But the experience shows that people are willing to make an extraordinary effort when their leaders inspire them. However, some managers have a tendency to hold back the transformation process by exaggerating the effort that the team must make. And they adopt a paternalistic attitude that often hides their lack of involvement in the process and their lack of leadership. Inspiring someone doesn't mean putting the occasional show by dazzling people with certain outstanding personal qualities. A leader inspires you when he or she helps you to change your habits by developing new competencies, thus transforming your life. I think there are two kinds of managers. Managers with a vision reduced to their own function, and managers who have a global vision of the company and a leadership that inspires the whole organization. Transformation processes can reveal the lack of leadership in the management team, in the same way that naked swimmers are exposed at low tide. There are three factors that drive a transformation process. First, the sense of achievement that is generated in those leading the transformation as they see the results. Second, the sense of self-esteem arising from developing new competencies. And third, the recognition they receive from top management. Transformation is a delicate process that requires the ongoing drive and encouragement of the management team. Transformation processes necessarily take time because they need to have a significant impact on three dimensions: the business model, the organization structure, and the competencies of the team. And it's easy to fall into two traps during this process. Firstly, wanting to change everything in just a few months, thus provoking organizational collapse. And secondly, when the difficulties that arise during the process are used as an excuse to slacken the pace of the change or to modify the transformation methodology itself. There are no shortcuts. Transformation is a continuous process that requires a consistent methodology. Absolutely, the key transformation skill is closeness, being close to people and staying in close contact with reality. And to achieve this closeness, we must break away from the idea of managing the team from behind a keyboard and a screen, shooting messages from a distance like a sniper. To the contrary, close contact with employees enables leaders to tackle the constant difficulties that arise during the transformation process, not simply in the form of general guidelines handed down from above, but through ongoing and inspiring conversations that bring all members of the team into line and imbue each individual with renewed enthusiasm. An authentic business transformation is always based on a series of personal transformative experiences. And there is no more effective transformative tool than a face-to-face conversation. A clear indicator to measure the degree of transformation of a company is the speed with which the organization translates strategic priorities into specific projects, achieves quick wins, and then each team delivers with a defiant smile that says, next.
Okay, so now we can now say that apart from the 12 competencies that we looked into, handling transformation within the organization is another important competency that every manager needs to have. We also learned from the video that a feedback mechanism would play a major role irrespective of the feedback, irrespective of the management hierarchy from where the feedback is coming. It would play a major role in arriving at the necessary transformation amongst the team members. So again, handling transformation would be a subcategory within the behavioral category or the behavioral competencies that a manager should have. We had seen that there are 3 categories: behavioral category, technical, and leadership, right? So this would come under the behavioral competencies that the manager should have. So that's where we stop here for today. Okay, thank you, class.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.